imagine what that looks like. We, in a way, have taken one giant step. We imagined Formula One to be a sport of sustainable fuels. Here we are. We imagined it to be having more battery power. Here we are. We imagined new manufacturers coming. That's happened too. Now we really find out what this new Formula One that we've dreamt of, with closer overtaking and closer teams and a budget cap and a limit to how much teams can spend and what sort of technologies they can develop. That Formula One is finally here. Now, is it good or not? Who's first or not? How many cars finish or not? There's a million questions for us to answer, Kunal. I think we're going to go on a really fun odyssey today on this episode.
I think we're going to go on a fun odyssey this episode, this race week. We're going to actually find out if we're going to have a race this weekend. Of course, we will have a race, but will it really be a race as we've known Formula One to be? Or, I don't know, we're going to find out new drinking game terms as well. What do we start with? Are we
Yeah,
predicting
actually,
everything?
drinking game things first, because that's the most predictable. More than the fact that there'll be, I think, five cars within 1 second, you can predict the fact that people will talk a million things about the modes, the FAQs. I know we've done this like 10 times on the Inside Line F1 podcast, but still, let's go through it. Overtake mode is not the same as boost mode, and it's obviously also not the same as straight mode. Although these three things can happen simultaneously, they're not the same thing. So the first drinking game will be the modes, just us talking about what modes each of the things actually are like.
Yeah, and I think the other drinking game is going to be the flappy wings. F1 doesn't really have a term for it. We are calling it flappy wings, but what else? So it's the modes, it's the wings. Uh, are we going to talk energy management? Is everyone just going to keep saying the word
Yeah.
battery, battery, battery? And new viewers tuning in after watching Drive to Survive will be like, but we thought we've tuned into Formula One. Why is all of this sounding like Formula E? And maybe that's another drinking game in itself. How many times are we going to hear the words, this is driving a Formula One car, the Formula E way?
I think a lot. Wow. I think a lot. This is the first thing that people are going to see in qualifying as well. And also, one of the reasons why we will see this a lot this weekend is because I predict we are going to complain a lot about energy management this weekend. We have come to probably one of the worst circuits to regenerate energy in the Formula One calendar. You have Monza and then you have Australia in terms of the time spent on braking, the lowest amount of time spent on braking on the Formula One calendar, roughly only 8.5 seconds. So drivers are now going to be regenerating lower than the FIA limit of uh, of how much they're allowed to regenerate. Normally, it would be 8.5 megajoules. At Australia Kunal, that's going to be 8 megajoules. So we're already putting lower limits on drivers to regen. So what we wanted to bring in terms of this new formula has already been somewhat sort of tempered down in the first race.
Yeah, and I think let's separate the two things. I think the cars are good. I think they're very lovely to drive. What everyone's going to complain about this weekend are the power units and battery management and what that's looking like. But Soumil, why don't we jump straight into actual predictions? What are we starting with?
What are we starting with? The first winner in the 2026 season would be who? The first prediction. Uh, Now, this then takes us to a bigger prediction about, will the Mercedes fuel be homologated? Will they be allowed to compete? And hence, if they are allowed to compete, will they be competing to the same level of performance? Or will they have to use a more standard fuel because they haven't been able to homologate their Petronas fuel?
Is that really
And
so? I thought
hence, uh,
it's homologation has happened, hasn't it?
no, they had issues homologating the higher performance version. So they homologated a standard version, is what I read.
Once Okay, that's news to me because I just got I knew that their fuel is homologated as it is, and there are no issues with fuels. But my first race winner of the year, wow, I think it's going to be Charles Leclerc. What do you pick?
I'm going to go for George Russell.
Are you saying George Russell Pretty much every writer, commentator, podcaster, content creator has labeled George Russell as the preseason favorite. You really think he's going to live up to that this weekend?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think he's the only one driver who can probably take it to Max with full confidence, knowing that there's got to be someone stepping it up to him. What we saw from Leclerc in 22 wasn't enough. Obviously, different times, he's a different person now, and we're hoping the Ferrari is different too. But I have my hopes in George Russell, and hence that takes us to our podium. I'm saying we are going to be seeing two Mercedes cars. Whether one of those actually, let me put it this way: for the podium, I predict we see two Mercedes powered cars. It's just a separate question to see if one of them will be a McLaren or not. As I'm predicting Russell, I'm predicting wow, Norris and perhaps Leclerc, I guess.
Yes, so we've got Sadhna and Sarika here. We'll get to your comments, right? I think Sarika's comment is a little more contextual to what we're saying. She's like, let's go realistically delusional. Oscar Piastri. I presume you're saying that for the winner of the race. Is that what it is? But before we get to the podium, Soumil, I'm gonna put another question to you. Let's predict how many cars are actually going to finish the race because I think that's going to be more fun.
Oh, how many cars are going to finish? So you already take two of 22 because we know it's going to be tough for the two green cars, the Aston Martins. So that raises a question of how many L's. I somehow get a feeling one of the Audis won't make it, even though I love them. It's
Hmm.
just you never know. It's a tough race. It's going to be decently cool in Melbourne, but it's not a very relenting circuit that way. It can be nice and bumpy, and you never know how that's going to shake up a new power unit, especially one that involves lots of regeneration. I mean, we've heard this in Formula E a lot, haven't we, Kunal? Where a bumpy circuits or something happens where it spikes up the amount of power deployed in the system, and then you go over the maximum deployable limit for half a second or 1 second, and then your power unit suddenly becomes illegal. We've seen that a lot in Formula E races. I don't know if that's a factor here in Formula One.
That's
So,
that's that's very interesting, and that's why following motorsport in general gives you so much more of a rounded understanding of what are the factors that can come in. But you've not put a number. How many cars do you think are finishing the race? So you've taken the two Aston
oh,
Martins out. You've taken one Audi out. Are you doing the math? That's 22 minus 3. Yeah.
I think one Racing Bulls and one Mercedes too, right? Let's just say five people don't finish, 17 finishers. Yeah, let's just put it out there. Yeah.
I get a feeling, yes, both Astons are going to be out. And I think each power unit manufacturer will have at least one retirement. So that's one Honda going, one Red Bull Powertrains Ford going, one Ferrari going, and one Mercedes going. So I would say 16 non finishers this race weekend. And that's going to be interesting because when it comes to new formula, new season start, reliability is key. To finish first, you need to first finish. So George Russell will finish first, but I think there are going to be 16 cars finishing. Yes, Sarika, that is too many. Bahrain GP will be survival mode. Yes, Prince, we are talking about the Australian Grand Prix though. And while we are at the Australian Grand Prix, explain why the Australian circuit will be difficult for regeneration, asks Sadhana. You want to take that?
Yeah, why not? Melbourne is a fast circuit. You do not spend a lot of time in heavy braking here. There's not really many places to do so. Turn number one would be one. Apart from that, the turn three, four section where you go to the slow right-hander, that's probably going to be your other major one. And then you have that one zone in the final corner after the quick left-right of the chicane. Once you go past the lake. So there's not really lots of places where you stay on the brake for too long in Melbourne. And one of the main ways to regenerate energy is to go braking because that's where you're able to harvest the kinetic energy lost. So places like Melbourne, places like Monza, it's a little trickier. For instance, if you go to Abu Dhabi or Bahrain, you've got lots of long straights and lots of braking zones at the end, so you're able to recover a lot more. So since you recover less, you have less to play with. And what that then does is at the end of long straights, that leaves you with less battery deployable. So you are going to see a situation called super clipping, where The internal combustion engine, the normal engine, is done deploying its power, but there's just not enough battery to take it further. So the car is going faster, just not going faster by an increasing amount. Let's put it that way. It's going quicker, but the rate of going quicker is becoming slower.
I think that's very well explained, especially given how the circuit is. And, we've known the circuit. It's 30 years since we've been racing at this circuit, the Albert Park semi permanent street circuit. And I'm going to just put numbers to what Soumil said. So, Formula One in 2026 is going to be about how much energy you're allowed to store, which is limited to 4 megajoules for energy store in your battery, right? And how much you're going to keep harvesting every lap. So what do I mean by harvesting? Say you got 4 megajoules of energy in the battery and you go down a long straight, you're going to use between 3 to 3.5 megajoules on that straight, which means that your power unit, which is 53% petrol engine and 47% battery, you're going to actually run out of that 47% battery in terms of deployment. But what this formula allows you to do is that it allows you to regenerate battery power through the lap. And that regeneration is limited to 8.5 megajoules, like Soumil was saying. So technically, you are able to keep using your battery and recharging your battery every single lap. In fact, you are expected to do that if you want to, reach the full 100% power output capacity of your power unit. So what are the ways to generate that energy? Is like Somal said, there's braking, there's lift and coast, and in extreme measures, there's super clipping. And we're going to see super clipping just because the straights are long, fast and flowy corners, but not too many braking zones. So if I was to summarize this year's cars will actually prefer slower corners just so that it just because it offers better chances to regenerate energy. Wow. Did you imagine we would talk about energy management in the first 12 minutes? Or did you think we were just going to talk racing? Because racing is what we are most excited by. Wow. That's technical, right?
Exactly, but I don't mind this. In theory, I don't mind using my brain to understand Formula One cars. That's how it should be. It's the pinnacle of motorsport. You need to be able to think a lot about how racing happens, and it answers one of the big questions that Prince has actually put up, and that's what we're going to find out this weekend. Can we expect more position swaps at the Australian Grand Prix? More than usual because of the past compared to the past regulations. Actually, let me read that properly. Can we expect more position swaps in the Australian GP than the usual past ones because of new regulations making cars a bit lighter and faster, prone to going more off track till the drivers are habitual? In part, that is going to be the case. Many more drivers are going to make mistakes, Kunal, and I predict at least 4 drivers going off track during the race because a lot of people haven't quite figured out braking. And this is a new surface. And on top of that, the way you drive around a street circuit is going to be very, very different compared to what you do around a permanent circuit. And in these cars, more than ever, the braking zones are variable. So you will inevitably see some drivers make some mistakes. And I'd say that's what we're hoping for, right? We're hoping for more back and forths and more passing. I guess that's what we want from this new regulation set.
On merit, yes. We want them on merit. We don't want it because Soumil got overtaken just because he ran out of battery and he had to keep regenerating it. Maybe that's going to be the future of Formula One. Maybe that's what we'll have to. If the drivers are getting used to unnatural ways of racing, if the teams are getting used to unnatural ways of charging and discharging a battery, maybe fans need to get used to that style of unnatural viewing of the sport that we've been used to for so many years. And what you said about predicting how many drivers will lock up at braking events? And that's a very interesting question. Now, why are we specifically talking of 21 best drivers in the world actually braking and locking up in those braking events? Because you guys remember the flappy wings that we're talking of? Something that Formula One teams have realized that when you engage straight mode, which is when the wings are completely flattened on the straights, and then when you get into corner mode, it is causing a lot more pressure on the tires. It is causing a sudden shift in the balance of the car. And that's why we saw a lot of drivers actually locking up in the braking zones in the preseason tests. So, how many drivers are going to go end up locking at the braking events in the race, Sommel? Pick a number.
Five. At least 5 drivers. At least 5. It's going to be so different.
Yeah. I mean, I would say, okay, I'm going to pick a number 8 drivers because They're going to still be figuring it out. Like you said, it's going to be variable. It's no longer you hit a brake marker and you turn in. It's going to be how much energy you need to harvest because you used up in the previous lap. And that's where the drivers and their race engineers and their control systems engineers will have to work as a team to say, you know what, you need to brake a little earlier, you need to lift and coast earlier, and so on. So we're going to see that. But we mentioned George Russell winning. You mentioned George Russell winning the race. If he does that, he'll be the first Mercedes driver to lead the Drivers' Championship after 1624 days. Because
Wow.
the last time a driver did that was Lewis Hamilton in 2021 Russian Grand Prix. And George Russell will then continue what is already the longest active streak of scoring points in races in Formula One, which is 16 straight races. This will then become his 17th race of scoring the points. So, wow, it's going to be. If it's George, it's going to be interesting. Again, I can't remember who did I pick for race winner. Was it Leclerc? Yes, I think it
You picked
was.
Leclerc, yeah.
If
Oh
I
man.
pick Leclerc, it'll be Ferrari's 250th win in Formula One, right? Which is epic. And it
Right
will
after him getting married, on top of
right
that.
after him getting married, yes. And although Leclerc has failed to convert 15 of his last 16 poles and also has not converted his last three poles, but going by Ferrari's, small turbo, starting so quick, I don't think it's going to matter where the Ferraris start from. They're going to anyway end up lapping through the grid. They're going to anyway end up being in the first two positions at the end of the first lap, just given how fast they are starting. And each time there's been a regulation change, Soumil, Ferrari and Leclerc have led the world championship for the first five races. So actually, a lot is going in favor of Charles
What
Leclerc,
do you
even
mean
statistically.
each time? There's only been one, hasn't
Yeah,
there?
it's a factor of one, but he's still
That
done it.
doesn't count. That doesn't count. Come on, I'm not buying that stat. Uh, but overtakes. How many of them are going to be genuine? Because actually, we need to then also consider the question: what does a genuine overtake mean? And I think in 2026, our definition of what a genuine overtake is going to be redefined. Because in my head, a genuine overtake is when two cars fighting each other on merit are able to produce a battle, and then there's a swap in positions. Now, whether they have different grip levels, fuel levels, aero levels, it's a different story. But that's an overtake on merit for position. But when you have something like 1% on a one person on 100% battery and the other one on zero, I'm not too sure. That's a person being a sitting duck in a way. And I'm very intrigued, Kunal. We have no idea of what racing now could look like. It could well be that every driver becomes uniform in where they regenerate energy, or you could see drivers regenerating energy in random places and passing people in random corners. And maybe that changes how we officiate overtaking as well, because we maybe drivers are overtaking in corners we never expected them to overtake in before. It's it's a new frontier in a way.
So, what's your prediction? How many overtakes are we going to see? And then after the race, we'll discuss if they were genuine or no. Pick a number.
I think at least 30, right? At least 30 overtakes.
I'm going to go with 60 overtakes. I think it's going to be chaotic. I think especially the opening lap, given the
Yeah.
the characteristic of the circuit itself, turns 1 and 2 is cramped up, turns 3 and 4 are cramped up. And I think I hope I don't see anyone taking off the way we saw Ralph Schumacher take off as well. And Ranjan is saying, I'm going to put my money on Mercedes, Kimi, and Russell. They have my faith. So there we go. At least some people there. Somebody wants to say hi to you, Soumil. There's Feeder Motorsport saying, I was the guy you met at MotoJam after the garage tours. Guy in purple. That's why the comment is also in purple. But
Good to meet you, man. Good to meet you.
since we are talking of racing, why don't we get with race starts? Because Ankita is saying Ferrari are going to cook with that Macarena wing, and Ferrari fans are insane hopium. If they're going to nail those starts, Soumil, the flip side of the question is how many drivers are going to hit anti-stall. Let's make a
I was
prediction.
thinking of just that. I was thinking at least three cars stalling and at least one false start. Like, at least. Let's just account for it, right? So that we're not surprised when it happens. I think
So
one false start for sure.
so 1 second. If
For
if you're
sure.
saying if you're saying three cars are going to stall, they are definitely not finished. They're not even starting the race, let alone finish one. So your
Oh
original
yeah.
prediction of five cars having a DNF is, does that include these three cars, or it's five plus three?
No, well, if they do have a stall, that's it for them, isn't it? Like they're not allowed to have any mechanical assistance to get back unless they're able to find a way to turn the car back on manually using the electrical system. Which is it possible with the new generation of cars? Like, can you do so that easily?
I believe so. That's what we've been
Yeah, I
seeing even
think
in the
so, right?
previous ones. I'm pretty sure they'll have some, because when you come up on the start grid and you're waiting for the five lights, you're turning up the turbo. I'm sure you're coming with full battery power. You're not. You're definitely using the formation lap to pull as much battery power there as well. But Sandy's here. Sandy's also saying podium will be a Mercedes engine driver. All three of them, I guess. Russell
Oh,
has the advantage. Well, seemingly let's see how that goes as well. And my guess is we are going to see no stalls on the grid. Will they hit anti-stall? Yes, but they will resurrect the car. But I get a feeling we're going to see a sloppy start from those in general. And my prediction is it's not going to matter where you qualify, because all the Ferrari powered cars, and how many are there? There's the two Ferraris, two R's, and the two Cadillacs, will actually have better starts. And this means Cadillac will be 3 to 4 seconds off the pace in qualifying. They'll just about get into 107%, right? But with their starts, they're going to suddenly get into the top 10 because everyone else is, charging up their turbo and whatever else, while Cadillac just nailed the start. That's my prediction.
this is going to be such a random race, man. Like you'll have different people at different times coming in and being faster. Like I can imagine if Cadillac is, let's say, P7 or P8, and then they're 4 seconds a lap slower compared to everyone. There could be like, I don't know, the Red Bull coming in being 18th and 90th, but then being 3 seconds a lap or 4 seconds a lap quicker. It's it's going to be at certain point. It's going to be like seeing different formulas of cars racing each other. So you may see an Ayrton a lap of the gods kind of situation where one person starts last and is able to come up first, or the opposite too. Like it we could have dramatic opening laps. Like it could be a lap from the gods. I don't know, Kunal.
My prediction is the most dramatic opening lap is going to be Valtteri Bottas. Okay. He's got a five
Man,
place grid penalty, which he's carrying forward from his last race with Alfa Romeo, right? Despite that grid penalty, despite being last, he's still going to nail that start just because he's got a Ferrari powered Cadillac. That's what's going to happen. And Bottas has gone 29 races without scoring points. That's his ongoing streak. I fear that streak is going to continue even if he has a striking, strong start in Albert Park.
it could be so interesting to see what happens in the race. Time for some more comments that we've got on our YouTube page. While my screen just refreshes for a second. Uh, there we are. Prince says, Cadillac fans, no Kunal, no. That was so not right. Freedom Motorsport says Williams would definitely be in the top seven. We'll have to see again. Like their power unit is working, but again, how good is the chassis? Do you guys see me, by the way? Because I don't
No,
see myself.
you have frozen. So I get a feeling you might have to reconnect on this one.
I should
But
do that.
yeah. So, well, just because I've said we will have a double digit DNF and Cadillac, Audi, Aston are going to be bottom, Williams can be top seven. Yeah, they could well be in the top seven. It's going to be that. And Ankita is manifesting a Lando podium or a win, which will be interesting because Lando Norris has three stats going against him when it comes to not winning the Australian Grand Prix. And I think one of the first stats is 8 out of 16 times he's lost the lead while starting from pole position. But that's not really the stat that will claim that he's going to be out of contention for the race win. But uh, I don't get a feeling McLaren are going to be up there just yet. I get a feeling Mercedes are definitely going to be the class of the field this weekend and for several weekends to come. They were definitely hiding things from there. But yes, Lando is the 11th world champion from the UK, actually the fourth most experienced driver to win a world title, win it in his 152nd Grand Prix. He is also the longest tenured driver at McLaren. And while we wait for Soumil, I'm going to keep holding on. Lando's also got the record for the most races with a single constructor. Yes, my commentary notes are here, so I'm reading out from there. Lando Norris has outqualified Oscar Piastri at teammates in all of their three seasons together. And what else have we got? Lando will be the first McLaren driver to use number one on their car since Jenson Button in 2010. Wow, that's like 16 years ago. But should we just move on till we figure where Sommel is? Maybe he is somewhere. Okay. I'm taking Sandy's comment. Why did Verstappen predict the Mercedes as the competition and not Ferrari, despite him seeing results from testing as well as the design of the Ferrari cars, rear wing, etc.? I found that strange. Beyond the point, testing was when nobody wanted to be the fastest, and now suddenly everyone is going to want to be the fastest, and that's what is going to happen. I believe Soumil Arora is back. I just had to let him in, so he is here right now. Ahmad is saying George Russell contention world championship winning year. Believe it, yes. um, Ankita is saying Lando did bottle 24, but he improves drastically in 2025. Yes. Uttara is saying manifesting Isaac in top five. Wow. Uh, okay. Somebody wants to talk about the Indian Grand Prix. We will talk about it while we wait for Somil to figure what's actually happening. Uh, but if I can just take some more comments, Mercedes were definitely sandbagging. It's definitely nothing. But yes, sandbagging is a part of Formula One. Everyone's going to take their sandbags off only when it comes to qualifying, especially in Q3, because what's going to happen in qualifying, and this is interesting when we look at teammates, right? Isaac Hadjar, since Uttara mentioned Isaac Hadjar, could very well be half a second of Max Verstappen and still be just a couple of positions down, because we predict that qualifying, at least in the first half of the year, while teams fine tune their cars for single lap pace and understand what's the best way to have outlaps and harvesting strategies and deployment strategies, there will be wider gaps between all the teams and hence the teammates in qualifying come the first few races. So Isaac Hadjar could very well be eighth, but still be half a second off Max Verstappen, who's probably third. So we're going to see that across teams, but crucially across teammates as well. So look out for the gap between the teammates, even if the results seem slightly more fun. Soumil Arora's devices are not accessible, it says, which is extremely strange. But I'm going to keep continuing while we wait for him. All right. Uh, I'm going to pick some more comments. Liberty Media is desperate for a Russell versus Verstappen clash, fireworks, drama. Well, not just Liberty Media, right? All of us fans are key to, of course, growing the sport, but we want to see somebody take the challenge to Max. We've not seen Lando do that. Remember that, not consistently for a championship winning or losing season, right? We've seen Piastri do that, but again, not throughout the entire championship. Is George Russell an equal to Max Verstappen if he's got the car to compete? And 2025 definitely was one of those seasons. So, yes, not just Liberty Media, but pretty much all of Formula One would want to see Max being challenged by a driver who he is not yet challenged by throughout the season. And yes, they already have beef in the press conferences. Can that beef extend on track? We would love to do that. Soumil Arora's message saying he's restarting his laptop, but that could very well be happening at the race restart, this weekend as well. And remember, when there's a race restart, especially if there's a safety car, that's very good for energy harvesting, because, like I said earlier, the slower the cars go, the more energy they will be able to put into those batteries. Bharat is saying, I read that Ferrari's engineers were unable to fly to Australia on time due to the Middle East tensions. How will this impact race preparations for the Ferrari? There is nothing that I have heard in particular about this. A lot of team members were anyway flying and transiting via Singapore. At least at this moment, I do not believe that Key team members haven't made it to Australia. There would have been statements that would have come out already. But let's hope the Middle East conflict ends for humanity and we are able to continue racing as well. And, I've always said this, if countries want to settle their differences, just build race cars and see who wins on track. That's a more fun way uh, to do it as well, right? So, Mercedes engine cars have until July to destroy the field. They lose the advantage after that. If the Bahrain and Saudi GPs get cancelled, means they have two races less to conquer. There are two parts to this. 31st of July is when there's a cutoff that happens. The compression ratios after this will be measured at cold and hot temperatures. And this is very interesting because the teams that were lobbying against Mercedes' compression ratio tricks wanted the FIA to measure it while it was operating, which means at hot temperatures. And then the FIA has outsmarted all the teams. They're saying not only will we measure when it's hot, but we will continue to measure it when it's cold as well. So the regulation which says you have to be within the certain compression ratio limit at all times will then mean that when you're running the engine and when it's completely cooled down, you need to be within that set compression ratio. So that's what's going to happen. And as for Mercedes, two two of the races being cancelled in case that happens, Saudi and Bahrain, impact them? Well, it is reported that Imola and Portimao, two fantastic racetracks, are on standby in case races get cancelled. So Soumil Arora is back. He's doing what
Hmm.
Aston Martin would typically are expected to do. And Bharat is saying, I'm a Dubai resident, hoping for conflict to end soon. Stay safe, Bharat. Yes, we've seen lots of visuals. I've got friends there as well. People are eating breakfast and then they see a missile in the sky and they're sending me a video. Very, very scary. But Somil, how does it feel to be back after doing what Aston Martin are reportedly going to do?
Which is, oh yeah, taken in during the race, test your systems, and then try to come back. That it feels decent. Maybe this is going to be a trend in Formula One. People just sorting out technical issues in the middle of the race. No, sorry about that, folks. They suddenly couldn't recognize my camera, so quick restart and back we are. More comments coming in. Emma says Adani Corp has to also keep the viewers' interest in mind. We know how close they are to the politicians. Rather see attainable tickets for us than politicians, celebs chasing clouds. Uh, there will be more than enough. There will be more than enough tickets, I believe. More questions coming in. Cancel Saudi, Bahrain, Qatar, Abu Dhabi, get back both Istanbul, Park, Kailami, and Sepang. Do we want to get back onto the 2026 season, Kunal? Because
Yeah,
I
I think
feel
so. Because yes, we
we've
won the
gotten a
Indian
little
Grand Prix.
bit
We've
towards the
spoken about
calendar.
it. Yeah, yeah. Okay, Samuel, you also made a point saying there are lights on the cars from the F1 2026 season. The hazard lights are going to be triggered every time a driver goes spinning. But there is one more light that you want to talk about.
Yes, the lights that you see at the back of the car. Now, we've always seen the flashing red lights to showcase harvesting energy. This time, we're going to see a same case of that as well. So, whenever you're going to see the lights flashing on the car behind, it's going to showcase that the driver ahead is restoring energy. So that tells the person behind what's actually going on, and they can be safe and sound about passing another car because that'll give an idea of just how slow the other person's going. And that's going to be important because this year, random places are going to be opened up on the Formula One calendar for people to make overtakes. And when people randomly go slow, you need to be able to see if the person ahead is just going slow because of a mechanical issue or because they are harvesting energy. So that's going to be one thing. And my prediction is we are going to see at least one crash of someone from behind bumping into someone ahead because they didn't
Oops.
realize how slow they were.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. And I hope that doesn't happen because that's what's going to be the big challenge. But why don't we do qualifying predictions? Who is your pick for pole, Somil Arora?
Oh, I'm picking George Russell for pole. If we're doubling down, we're doubling down. I'd say Max Verstappen second, but very close.
So you're saying George Russell is just going to take pole, lead opening lap, and win? Okay, then let me just ask you, how many minutes do you think George Russell is going to win by? Notice I said minutes.
No, I don't think a lot. I think Antonelli is a close second, and by I don't know 8 seconds or something.
Okay. Okay. So how many
Which
minutes do you think Mercedes is winning by?
Uh, 15, 20 seconds. Again, I think our definition of what a big gap is going to be refined big time this year. Like, for all we know, 20 seconds may not be a big gap this year.
Wow. Okay.
I don't
Let's
know.
see.
Who are you picking for pole, Kunal?
I'm going to pick Max Verstappen for pole. See that Red Bull is going to perform either on single lap pace, where they will have optimized energy deployment, all of that, or do very well in the race, or do both. But I know that Max on that single lap, he'll say, "You just get me the car up front. I'll figure the rest of it out." GP and I will scream at each other, run the engine, blow it up, whatever. But I get a feeling it's going to be Max Verstappen for pole position. That's my pick. And then we know what all he can do when he starts up front. He's on a streak of 3 straight wins, 10 straight podiums. Let's remember that. And his last 5 starts in Albert Park have either resulted in a podium or a DNF. He has 3 podiums and 2 DNFs. So lots going there as well. Uttara's joining me saying, yes, it's Max. Sarika
So
saying
people
OP
agreeing with
for
Kunal as
pole.
well.
Yeah, OP for pole. Oscar Piastri for win podium as well. Home race. He'll be the first Australian to do that, right?
Yeah, let's hope there's a story over there as well. I want to see how good customer teams are, and if there's any customer team as good as a manufacturer team. Like that's also a big question in my head. Like, are the manufacturer teams going to be far better prepared for these races compared to the customer teams that they service and provide? I'm not too sure. And leading midfield team, who's that going to be? I'm seeing Haas this weekend.
I'm going with Alpine this weekend.
Interesting.
Yeah. So Haas is the Ferrari outfit, of course. I'm saying Alpine, and there is, of course, Ankita saying Gasly is not going to be in the top 8. Forget top 4. And Feeder Motorsport is asking, can Gasly catch up to the big 4? Now, interestingly, Gasly has scored no points at Albert Park since 2022, and of course he's been here 2 times in Q3 in 2 out of the last 3 races. So can he be in the top 10 and still make it count? That's going to be the fun part. That Alpine with the Mercedes engine, what everyone believed that having a Mercedes engine is going to bail us out of our performance issues, is that really going to happen? So I'm picking Max Verstappen for pole position. But what's the gap? Why don't you predict the gap from P1 to P22, Somil?
Ooh, 3.5 seconds per lap. I'm saying.
No, you got to go down to 100 and 1000 also. Please pick a
Okay,
magic number.
so 3.627 between
I'm
first
going
and
to,
22nd.
and who's 22nd?
Lance Stroll?
I'm going to take 3.218.
3.21. Not too bad. Okay. Let's see if there's
So
actually anyone under
basically, you
3.
and I are convinced that the last row is 3+ seconds away. At least
Yeah,
that we agree with. That's the prediction, right?
easily. Easily.
Okay. And
Easily.
I get a feeling it is Cadillac last row, unfortunately. The battle of the number 2 drivers on who's going to be P22. So that's okay. But on a more serious note, and I was explaining, Soumil, while you were away, why teammates, and it is going to be easier for teammates to be next to each other. But do you think starting from pole is still going to matter as much?
Wait, I lost you for a second. My internet's blinking a little bit.
Yeah, I'm saying, do you think starting from pole will matter so much if there is so much chaos in the racing itself?
Yeah, no, we discussed this at the start of the episode. I think it's going to be really variable in terms of where people finish when they qualify. I think a good start is all we're looking for, and after that, it might be so chaotic, right? One person having slow lap times but getting better track position.
Yes. Track position always matters. Even if you've got the most dominant car, you're able to control the race up front.
The
And that's the key part. Praveen is saying Oliver Behrman versus Pierre Gasly for the last 2 point scoring position. Now, that's an interesting one. And there's some questions about Kush Paini, which I will take later. And Ankita is saying the gap between P1 and P22 is actually going to be 2.84. Interesting. One key story I'm here to follow is Lewis Hamilton and his new race engineer. by lap 11 of the race, we are already going to get the first radio gem between Hamilton and the new race engineer, because I'm eager to see, have they worked on team dynamics between the two in the off season? Lewis is coming with a lot of energy, saying this car has his DNA, but does the pit wall also have his DNA? And will that temporary race engineer perform well enough to be converted into a permanent one? Because clearly he's temporary because Lewis wants to test him. But lap 11 is when we're going to get a radio gem from Lewis Hamilton and his new race engineer. So, who's the one driver you are most excited about in Australia, Soumil?
I am most excited for Ollie Behrman. Like, what if that Haas is genuinely a good starter? And what if he's able to put it in a decent position? What is the limit to what Ollie Behrman can do? Apart from George Russell, who I anyway believe this is the coming of age year for, uh, Ollie Behrman's going to be very interesting. And then also, Kunal, how different is Max Verstappen's performance going to be? And on top of that, Arvid Lindblad, we're finally getting to see him debut. Like after seeing him in India for so long now, getting to see him finally race is going to be some moment. And we've been waiting for this for the last couple of years. Who are you putting your money on in terms of drivers to watch for this weekend?
I'm putting my money on, I would say, Kimi Antonelli. If he knows that Mercedes is quick, is he going to get George Russell? Is he going to let George Russell run away with it? So I'm going to put my money on Antonelli.
Hmm.
And also George Russell, because when you've got a competitive car that you've been waiting for, right? How do you translate that into dominant performances? How do you run away with it? How do you make sure that you bore Formula One fans? So, does he have it in him to do that? And I get a feeling yes. And if that Ferrari is as quick as it is, could we see a Russell versus Leclerc for the Drivers' Championship? And that's again a narrative and a storyline we've never seen before.
And we're also not bringing in the McLaren guys, Kunal, in this prediction. And I think we deserve to have a chat because in this Australian Grand Prix, in a way, we'll find out where they really stand, like a proper litmus test of where the two McLarens are, and if they really are as good drivers as the 2025 standings sure to be.
And McLaren will be chasing that 100th win using Mercedes power units. In Australia, Lando Norris is outqualified all his teammates 5-0. So Norris has always been ahead. Uh, so I'm eager to see how those two drivers go. So lots of stories, lots of predictions, lots of racing we hope to see. And at this moment, we're going to see new broadcast graphics explaining the different modes. They're going to be SM boards on track,
Yeah.
which means straight modes. There's going to be OT, which actually says overtake mode as well. That's the detection point. There are 5 straight line modes in Australia. There's one overtake detection point just before the last corner at the Albert Park circuit as well. We have some offline stories as well, some love stories that have actually converted. Some Leclerc got married.
Some.
He had a civil wedding. Uh, Alexander Albon is engaged. I didn't know that in the off season.
Yeah, yeah.
Fernando Alonso is expecting a child, but will Kim Kardashian be at the Albert Park cheering for Lewis Hamilton?
She better be. She better be. That'll be such a cool story. And then maybe Lewis and her can go to the Himalayas together. We'd be happy to welcome them, won't we?
We just want F1 drivers to come to India. You spend a lot of time with
Yeah.
Arvid. What was your special moments with Arvid? Why don't you tell us a few of them?
Oh, it was really fun. Arvid came down, I think, for the third or fourth time. It's so cool. Every single time I meet him, I get to spend time with his nani and nana, and they're both so warm. And every time they remember you, and they're like, "Peter, can we bring some tea for you? Can we bring something warm for you?" It's always so cool. And his nani is exactly how you see her in the videos online. It's just as warm, just as sweet. They're really, really cool to spend time with them together, and also just to see the frame of mind he's in. He's so focused, he's so prepared. And I remember the difference from when we first got to interview him, Kunal, on the Inside Line F1 podcast a year and a half ago, compared to now. He's taken media training completely by himself. Like he's properly informed, he knows himself a lot more now. And then the kind of fun things he's able to do with the car for fun. Like he did not do any rehearsal before MotoJam, and jumps into an old Formula One car. It knows exactly how to drift it, exactly how to have fun with it, do all the possible tricks while taking care. You can't tell this guy is 18. Like the confidence is through the
But
roof.
Samuel, I must warn you. The one thing Formula One drivers don't get to practice is actual donuts. Okay,
They
because
don't.
they don't, and that's isn't that fun? They just get in and they know how to entertain crowds. Also, it's pretty easy to just do donuts. At least I think so. And these are those healthier donuts that happen. But well done on Motor Jam. We've got a race coming up this weekend. Who do you think is bringing upgrades? Will all teams bring upgrades? Do you believe so?
Surely, in a way, most of them. But I read a couple of them are not quite bringing major upgrades. It's not going to be like a fundamental shift like Audi from Barcelona to Audi to Bahrain. But I'd say most people will be bringing in upgrades, won't they?
I get a feeling all teams are bringing in upgrades. The cars we saw all up to date now, nobody showed their hand in terms of actual designs they're going to race.
Yeah.
Especially, remember, we've got a double header. China is going to be the sprint weekend. So, if teams are bringing anything new to try and test, it will have to be in Australia. And they would love to do that and see if their correlation matches with all the data they've had in CFD and the wind tunnels and so on. And my question is, do you think anyone's going to copy Ferrari's back flipping Macarena wing and bring it as a part of their upgrade for Australia?
I don't know. I think one or two teams for sure.
You think
Surely
so?
not. Like, what do Williams try to do? I don't know. Just thinking out loud. It would be fun. I mean, it's going to be very interesting to see what variants of cars actually show up. Like, we have no idea. For all you know, they could come up with the exact opposite of what they had in Bahrain.
Yes.
It's
Emma is saying upgrades should be plenty, not an underdeveloped ground effect philosophy anymore. And rookies, you said, Arvid, there's going to be only one rookie. Every other rookie is shed their rookie tag, except for Fernando Alonso, right? But we should talk about why Aston Martin might just do a couple of laps and park their cars, because we know why they might need to do it for technical reasons. Honda has not
yeah,
got enough spare parts, but why can't they not just show up in Australia, save all the travel money, save all the freight money, and just not show up? And one of the reasons behind that is that famous word, the Concord Agreement. That agreement binds the teams to show up at all that world championship races, which means you have to show up at those 24 races. And why is that commitment made? The teams make the commitment to Formula One because Formula One then makes the commitment to us. But crucially, that commitment is made to the broadcasters who are paying the rights fee to buy broadcast rights. So you know that
yeah,
every time you tune into a Formula One race, you will have 11 teams and 22 cars on the grid. Now, there are force majeure incidents where teams are allowed to not field the car in case, suddenly you just run out of spares and so on. But that's the reason why having Aston Martin there, even if they do a couple of laps, they're going to do it for sporting regulation reasons, but also commercial reasons that bind them from the Concord Agreement. Because if they do not show up, the penalty for that is actually what we don't know is, right? At least they don't show up and we'll
yeah.
know what the penalty is.
Yeah, they no, they've got to. That's why USA 2005 was such a big issue because teams showed up but didn't race. So technically, they weren't doing the wrong thing. It it just didn't feel right to do so, and that should have carried on. I think Aston Martin are going to be an interesting case that way. Fun to see the backlash of what happens, but it's clear that they're not going to be completing the full race. More questions actually. Got a couple as we come towards the final part of this episode. Aston Martin might want to hide the upgrade since it won't do them any good until the power unit is sorted out. Uh, let's see if they have upgrades because they don't even know what the primary problem is. Like they know that they have the vibrations, and then that is leading to all the other issues. But where are the vibrations coming from? How do you sort that? And once you sort that, what byproducts will it have, and will it impact other areas of the car? So they're in a deep pool right now. Ankita asking, so you bought the 29,500 ticket. I hope Avid succeeds because you can be a catalyst to get the BIC back. We don't need to buy tickets on the Inside Line F1 podcast. We will find a way to make sure we work towards the event. So That's what
Soumil was
happened.
actually host. He was a part of the hosting team, the organizing team, doing all the media around it, and did the garage tours and lots of content with Red Bull that he's done, along with his commentary duties for everything else that he does, whether it's tennis or football or Formula One on fan code and the likes.
And that's why on other days when we don't have stuff, you probably might just find me sleeping for 18 hours. It's ridiculous how much things are moving nowadays. But there is excitement towards Arvid, Kunal, but also an air of cautiousness because the cars are so different. So that's why
Do you
to
think he
answer
can
Ankita's,
outperform Liam Lawson? That's a question from Ankita.
I think he can. I think he can. Arvid's got that ability in him. Whether it's
It's a
this weekend or not, it's going to be the major question.
Yes. I believe, Liam Lawson for the first time actually has had a proper preseason chance to prepare with a team because we've had limited preseason testing last year when he was suddenly thrown into the Red Bull racing car and then demoted after a couple of rounds. So that's what's going to happen. But any more questions? Anything else? Sommel, 51 minutes in. Do you want to hit a 55 since that's your favorite driver, Carlos Sainz, and what's going to happen with him?
No, I think one last question and we can head. And that one question has to be, what do we want to leave the 2026 Melbourne GP feeling? What's happening?
Yes, we. That's exactly the feeling we do not want to leave the 2026 Australian Grand Prix with us thinking what's happening. I'm wanting to leave it with with a sigh of relief, where I'm like, okie doke, this is done. It's not as bad as we thought it would be, and that's what I hope Sommel happens with the 2026 Australian Grand Prix just when it is done. And yeah, that's where it goes. So, on that note, while Sommel still has his laptop and his connections in Aston Martin mode, we're going to call this quits. And we will see you a few minutes after the race and the checkered flag in Australia to review what actually happened in the first race of the Grand Prix. We'll see how many of our predictions were right, how many of your predictions were right. There are questions around the Middle Eastern Grand Prix. Are they cancelled? No, they're not. They are being evaluated as we go. So just keep a lookout on official sources and avoid clickbait media that's there. But yes, we can talk about Kushmaini, Feeder Motorsport. Just ping me on Twitter and we'll take it from there. But it's going to be Merck versus Max versus Ferrari. Well, that was an easy guess, Ahmad, right? I believe that's what's going to happen. But on that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, and we will see you after Australia.